Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Feliz miércoles a todas. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Latinas Power Talk. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed, everyone who has followed us on Instagram. Your support, honestly, means so much to me, and lo siento de todo corazón. So thank you guys for supporting Latinas Power Talk. Today's guest is giving me a little bit of flashback because we went to school together. We went to Arizona State University together. Go Walter Cronkite School of Journalism.
Yay.
Hey, forks up. And, you know, we went to school together, and you see her every afternoon at Telemundo Arizona, and she's going to talk to us about her story, who she is behind the camera, and her trajectory in journalism. So welcome, Jackie Lopez.
Thank you for having me, Kenya. And it is a little bit of flashback. I think it was back in 2017 when we...
I know. The last time, I was thinking about it as I was driving here. I was like, when was the last time I saw Jackie? And I was like, I think it was when we were at ASU in 2017. Y desde ahí, like, sometimes we text, sometimes we message. Pero así en persona, I don't think we've ever encountered each other again since 2017.
I don't recall seeing you.
I know. And it's like, I know we text because sometimes you come and cover like stories and stuff like that. But I'm like, dang, it's been a minute. But if you really think about it, like it's weird because it feels like almost a whole lifetime ago. But it also feels like no mucho tiempo ha pasado, like now that I see you in person, right?
That's the nature of this industry, I feel, because there's a lot of people that I went to school with or I work at my first market and I haven't seen them since then.
Yeah.
But when we actually see each other, we reconnect like if it was yesterday.
Right? Como si el tiempo no hubiera pasado, like you catch up and it's like no time has passed at all. But how many years? Let's see, I'm not good at math. So we're in 2024. That was 2017. That's almost 6 years ago.
Going on 7, maybe?
Going on 7 years. No, you're right. 7 years. But so much has changed for you over the course of 7 years. And honestly, it makes me so happy to see you doing so well in your career. It like fills my soul because you're doing it. And if I can say, like, you're probably one of the few people who are still in journalism, who are still in news from our cohort. And that's awesome. Like, I applaud you for that, you know? I really do.
It's a very hard industry, and you really have to have the passion and the heart in order to, for a lack of a better word, survive it. It's just very demanding, and not everybody is used to this lifestyle or willing to sacrifice something for this lifestyle. So I think it comes down to that. Not only is very competitive, so it's hard to get into news for everybody who is listening and is planning to have a career in this industry, but also to stay in it.
Right.
We have to move places constantly.
You have to start in a small market most of the time. You started in Yuma or Denver?
In Yuma, actually, yeah. Okay. So it was technically a small market at Yuma, you know, like if I talk about the team that I had there, it's a little weird. I will describe it as a monopoly because we have all the local stations. You have your typical English stations, and then you have your Spanish ones. But they were all under the same roof.
Oh, really?
In the same news director.
Okay.
So it was an advantage because we were able to share content. Footage, but it was also a disadvantage porque para Telemundo, which is where I started, it was only 3 of us. And there wasn't many bilingual journalists on the English stations, quote unquote. So we would be able to do work for them, but many of them would not be able to do work for us. So imagine for example, my producer at where I started, he was the producer and he was the anchor.
Which most of the time, I think there's like a misrepresentation of like news in the industry. Everyone thinks like if you're not in it, you think it's like this glamorous thing of like, oh my gosh, you get your hair done and your makeup done every day and you just go and sit at a desk and this and that. That is not the case. Like, especially if you're in a small market, like you said, you're the producer, you're the anchor, you're probably on the news desk too. Like you're all over the place. You're the photographer. Y eso es una de las cosas que la gente no se da cuenta que like most of the time you're a one-man team, meaning you're a reporter, but you're also carrying all your luggage with you because you have to set up the camera, you have to set up this, you have to set up that interview. And it's a lot of work. And like you said, you do have to have a passion for it to continue and make it be this like long lasting career, which I know you're doing so well, and you obviously do have a passion for it. So kudos to you, because like I said, like I think from our class, from everyone who we graduated with, like hay muy pocos que aún están in news, don't you think?
Yes. Well, they're in some way, somehow doing something communications related, but not many are in news or in front of the camera too, which is another thing. Puedes intercambiar, I guess that's the word, because you get to learn a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You know, like I think, for example, Charlene, I also went to school with her. She graduated a few years after I did. She started as an MMJ, which is technically my position, where you do a little bit of everything. You shoot your stuff, you write your stuff, you edit, and then you go on air and present it. Ella empezó así, ahorita she's producing.
Oh,
and
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's another thing, and especially with Spanish media, I feel, since we're a smaller team, maybe, I don't know, we get to do that a lot, actually. And it's a little bit encouraged too. Maybe it is because there's less people who are bilingual,
Yeah.
and we have smaller teams, because I notice it all the time where I'm in the field, where I'll be the only one out there by myself, and then all the other stations, they have a reporter, photographer, reporter, photographer.
Yeah. That's mostly the cases in like the English network, I would say, because I know when I interned, I would notice that like a lot of the stations don't have photographers, but the few that do, it is mostly like the English markets, right? Would you say?
Yeah, well,
Unless it's changed.
Yeah, with us, we have photographers, but there's only a few of them.
Yeah.
On my shift, we have one photographer. So imagine being able to cover everything that happens in the valley, and on top of
Yeah.
that, be able to help a reporter. It's a little bit hard.
Yeah, no, for sure. But oh my gosh, do you remember our Cronkite days? I think Cronkite really did prepare us. Well, prepared you, because I'm not in that industry anymore. But I think it really did prepare anyone who wanted to go in that industry of like, this is how it's going to be. This is reality. Like,
It
they were like, here you go. Te tiraron al fuego, como dicen, ¿no?
And I'm thankful for that, porque honestamente, when I started on my first market, I was under this impression de que no era tan difícil, you know? In Cronkite, yes, nos tiraban al fuego, but it was, 2 stories per week, from what I remember.
True, yes.
Here, sometimes it's more than 1 story per day.
Right.
You start your shift and it's with something, right? And then there's breaking news, so you have to shift very quickly and have that mentality too, to be able to switch from one topic to the other one, and be able to not only, comprehend what you're talking about, but be able to explain it on air.
Yeah. No, yeah.
In a very simple way.
In a very simple way, yeah. And just being very versatile as well. And kind of detaching yourself from emotion. Because I think for me, that was the hardest thing. And one of the things that I realized that I didn't want, why I didn't want to go in the industry, is because like you see a lot of heavy stuff, tragic stuff. Being able to leave it at your job and not carry it with you. How have you been able to like cope with that, of just like, because breaking news is tough. It's tough shit to see, you know?
I think once adrenaline kicks in, I'm go, 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 go. So
Yeah.
I don't think much of what's happening.
Yeah.
But I will lie if I told you it doesn't affect me. Like, there's times where I spoken with families who had the worst day in their lives. They just lost a loved one. Y muchas veces, mientras los estoy entrevistando, I cry with them. That's just part of being human. Or sometimes I cry in my car because I'm like, wow. Like,
Yeah.
it's just all
It's
the emotions.
real life, like right in front of your eyes,
It's all the emotions, y sería también cruel el no ser empático con la persona a la que estás entrevistando. At least for me, if I see somebody crying, I'll start crying automatically. And I'm able to feel the vibe in the room too.
Yeah.
And that sort of helps me, I guess, with how I'm handling the interview, the situation. And I always try to put myself in their shoes. If I'm interviewing somebody, I always tell them, like, feel free to pause the interview at any time, or even stop the interview completely, Like, you're not under any obligation to speak with me, and I value and appreciate that you are. And I'm doing my best to tell your story in a respectful way. But I also understand it's a very sensitive subject. Muchas veces estamos hablando de muerte, de un accidente, overdose, or just something tragic. So
Una enfermedad. Yeah.
so I try to imagine, like, if there were my family, how would I want them to be treated? And I try to do that. But it takes you have to be very strong también, porque at the end of the day, you're doing a story and you have to be able to come on air and present it. And remember the purpose. Why are you telling this story? It might make a difference in somebody else. It might prevent somebody else from going through the same experience. It might give somebody hope también.
Yeah.
Like when we were talking about una enfermedad o algo and they overcame that. So I always try to remember, what's the purpose I'm doing this? I'm not doing it just to have somebody cry on camera or just, somebody tell me their sad story. No, there's a purpose behind it. Viene con recursos. It comes with help. It comes with some type of knowledge that it's going to benefit somebody else.
Guidance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some type of guidance. No, especially like within our community, the Hispanic community, I think, because of how culture is different, I think a lot of people aren't used to, in our culture, Googling or fact checking things or knowing about resources. And I think you guys provide that. You guys are that resource that maybe the older generation in our cultura haven't been exposed to Google or an iPhone or something or other platforms of where they can like look at things that can help them. And you guys are providing that still, in that type of way. So I think I applaud you for that, of always like keeping your purpose behind you in an industry that's always like heavily criticized. I feel like society really criticizes you guys a lot, but I think, your purpose is is helping people, in our community, in our state. What made you want to go into journalism? I don't think we've ever talked about this because I was thinking, I don't know if you remember. So we were at Cronkite and you were on Cronkite Noticias for like a split second, right? And then you changed it to the following semester, I want to say, right?
Yes, because that was my junior semester.
Okay. Yeah. And I remember I had like a flashback of like, we had to work on something in an edit bay. And I remember, pero nunca I think we were just like on grind mode of like, I have a deadline, that we didn't really get to like talk per se. But I'm curious to know like, what got you interested in the industry?
Well, Cronkite Noticias was very new when we started. Yes. You guys were the starting generation for it to be an official class, first of all. So that was hard because we were trying to figure it out as we were going. So were the professors, I feel.
And I feel like sometimes they didn't take us as seriously. So it was a group of how many? It was like 6 of us. Yeah, por ahí. And I feel like because we were the first ones, we weren't given as many resources as like the English side to things, but hopefully when you guys came on the following semester, it was so much easier for you guys to like transition and stuff. I will say, like, I am super grateful for Univision of like kind of taking us under their belt and being like, we'll help you guys, we believe in you guys, and airing our newscast. Remember that? Like, we were kids. If you look back, like some of those packages were not good.
Our presence on camera too. I'm like, oh God. Like when I look back at my first reel, I'm like, I can't believe this got me hired.
Yeah, you're real. I know. It's like, but I think they see the drive and the initiative and the spark in you, and that's probably why they offer, I'm sure that's why they offered you a job. But yeah, if you think back to Cronkite days, I think back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like thank goodness like Juan Villa at Univision Arizona was like, you know what, I believe in these kids, because
he was a great mentor.
Yeah, he was. But anyway, what got you interested in the industry?
Well, I didn't realize it then, but I think it was since I was very young. I have always been this social butterfly since I was like in preschool. I used to have different nicknames, La Perica, La Cotorra, because I used to just talk. And I remember many people, teachers, parents from my friends, they will be like, ay, esta está buena para locutora de radio, because I talked so much. But I didn't really think, oh, that's a career move for me. I come from a very humble family, from a very small town in Mexico. I have to count them in my head. I have 3 brothers and 1 sister, biologically. And although I was the first one out of the 5, I'm the middle child to be born in the U.S. At the age of 4, my parents decided to go back to Mexico. My grandpa got very sick. The town where my parents are from, we're from Chihuahua. It's a very small town. My dad used to do farming over there. So obviously, being a small town, muchas ideas son como que soñar, like being on TV, and getting paid for it. Like nah.
What? That's an option for me? Yeah.
Exactly. So I didn't come back to the U.S. to start school until I was 12 in middle school. And so process that. I went back to Mexico when I was 4. My English was very limited. I knew some words like thank you, please, no, very simple words. Yeah. So when I came back in middle school, I technically didn't know any English. I was put in ELL classes.
And what grade was this when you came back?
8th grade.
8th grade. Okay.
Yeah, because I did all my elementary school over there. So what I remember is that cultural shock. Although almost everybody at school, the school that I went to, Western Valley Middle School, spoke Spanish, it was cultural shock because, again, I came from a very small town where everybody knows everybody. And then into this middle school here where I had to switch classes. Anyways, it took me a year to grasp and be able to, understand English. But I got very shy during that time.
It kind of like intimidated you almost, no?
Yes, because kids can be cruel too. Although we were all in the same boat y la mayoría hablaban español, they will make fun of my accent or my how I pronounce things. So I got very shy. And when I got to high school, I was like, you know what? I'm over this. I'm not going to be shy no more. So I forced myself to take a newspaper class. Shout out to Mr. Ross. He was the teacher. And that forced me to be able to get out of my shell and go talk to people because we had to write little articles.
Yeah.
The newspaper is kind of funny because it was called Chatos, because the bulldog was the mascot for the high school. Anyways, so that kind of got me out of my shell, and I realized that I like writing. In fact, when I first started with the idea of going into journalism, I wanted to be a writer. I never thought of being in front of the TV, let alone being a TV reporter. Anyways, you might remember that Cronkite has this annual conference for high schoolers.
Yes, like the workshop?
Yes. Alma,
okay,
yes, exactly. Yeah. So I attended my first Alma conference when I was a sophomore. And I was mesmerized by it.
Yeah, because all of these outlets go to... So the Alma workshop they gather a lot of... Alma stands for Arizona Latino Media Association. So mucha gente in different media organizations come together to kind of help and mentor like the incoming generation of journalists, and those were the students enrolled at Cronkite. And they have workshops of like whether you want to go into like, right, broadcasting, print, newspaper, radio. Yeah. But... So you went to your first Alma workshop.
Yeah, I was a sophomore, Y eso empezó el gusanito. Like, at that time, I will lie if I say, oh, yeah, I knew right then and there I wanted to be a journalist. No.
So you started Cronkite thinking, the mentality being that you wanted to go into print then, like newspaper. Is that what you were saying?
Well, I went into community college.
Okay.
And when I transferred to Cronkite, that's when I started to be more involved with cameras, because I don't know if you remember, they pushed you to take like one of those classes, like
videography.
Yeah.
Yes. Like videography 101 or something.
Yeah, it's very basic.
Yeah.
And I love that class.
Okay.
I remember when they sent us to do our first assignment, it didn't have to be like a report, where we had to have a voiceover. Well, I think we had to have a voiceover.
I think it was like a voiceover, but it could have been anything. Like you could have even gone to the street and like just done the light rail that was right in front, right? And be like, oh, this is the light rail that passes through,
Yeah, so it was very basic. Yeah. And at that time, YouTube was very popular, makeup artist.
Yes, everyone was doing YouTube vlogs.
Yes,
I remember. Now it's TikTok.
Yeah, but I was not good at doing my makeup. But I was very just into that stuff. And one of my cousins, she was going to cosmetology school. So I was like, I begged her. I'm like, Melissa, just do a quick tutorial how to do your brows. And I remember I recorded her, and I did my little voiceover, and it was so much fun.
So, and that was your first kind of like taste of video then, and being
Yes.
kind of like behind the camera, kind of what they call MMJ then at that point, right?
Yes, and that's when I'm like, you know what? I want to go into broadcast. I don't think I want to do print anymore. Although I enjoy writing, and writing is the basis of journalism, and I'm able to explore that through my job. I think the one thing I enjoy the most is doing sequences and recording and putting them together when I
Editing
have
the
the time.
package.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So having that eye for like videoing and capturing a shot and all that stuff. Como que te abrió las puertas to like, oh, I haven't tried that. And now I understand that I like it, right?
Yeah, and in fact, I don't know if this happens to you remembering that class, but after that class, that semester, I remember I started to watch TV differently. Like, I annoyed my boyfriend all the time because I'm like, ooh, I wonder why they did that. He's like, what? That's a jump cut.
I remember, yes. And I think one of the classes had us watch newscast every night and then just like pick stories that we liked, that we didn't like, the order of how they placed the stories, remember, and even like seeing individual packages. So for you guys that don't know, packages are like basically a whole reportaje that you see on TV. They're called packages, like from beginning to end, kind of like the video that they play. So for the people that don't know, explain a little bit of how quick you have to turn around a story.
Well, it depends. Like, for example, I'm in the night show, technically. I'm the 10 p.m. Newscast, but I go in at 2, and sometimes they'll require me to, I'll have an assignment for the early shows, 4:30, or 5. So imagine going in at 2, having to cover a conference that it's at 2:30 or 3, and being ready to go live with it at 4.
Yeah.
And everything that I say on air, yes, is scripted, but it was written by me prior. Obviously, I mean, many times if it's breaking news, I have to kind of improvise. And
Because you're on the spot,
because
yeah.
you're processing the information as it's coming, right at the moment, or describing the scene, and just kind of like taking those little nuggets of information that you have confirmed and going on about it. So it's very quick. If it's a story that I'm working for the 10 o'clock, well, I still have to go get the interviews, the video, and everything else. Usually by 6:30, I'm done, like getting all the elements. I take my lunch break, and then I start writing at 7. By 8, I already have the script. So it takes me about an hour to have the script. Each reporter has a different way of doing things. I always,
dynamic. Yeah.
I always say el orden de los factores no altera el producto. So whatever works for everybody. Some people like to write and eat as they go, or some people will, write and while they wait for the producer, that's when they take their lunch break. We just have different ways of doing things. But yeah, it's very quickly. And then the editing process is also very quick too, because we have to send it in before the newscast to make sure there's no errors with the story and anything like that, and then give yourself enough time to get ready. Like you said, we don't have makeup artists.
Yeah.
Are just they're ready for touch-ups and stuff like that right before you go on TV.
I know. I see your stories all the time, and you're like, a veces comiendo from your, what do you guys call it? That car that you guys drive? Kind of like your...
I call it my mobile office.
Your mobile office. Yeah, because it really is like a mobile office. Like you practically do your makeup there, maybe change, eat your lunch, edit the story, go live. Because doesn't it have the thing to go live if you needed to go live as well?
Well, those are the big old trucks. Now they're smaller, and we don't have to use antenna anymore. Thank goodness, because I'm always intimidated by those trucks, if I'm honest with you. We have this little backpack. It could be a Digero or it could be a Live View.
Oh, I remember those. Those were new back in 2017.
Yeah, so you just connect them to the camera, turn them on, and send the signal, and you're ready to go.
You're ready.
But it still takes time because you need to, set up the camera, frame it, and everything. And if you're by yourself, that could take a little bit of, going back and forth to check the shot.
Yeah, no, for sure. What has been a moment in your career that you're most proud of?
Well, there's multiple ones. Obviously, getting my first job when I first started, that was very proud for me because, like I said at the beginning, it's a very competitive industry. And it took me a while to go to TV. When you ask me right now what other internships I did, I worked with Mari Rabago Productions. Many of you, if you grew up watching Spanish news, might remember her from Univision. She was the main anchor for many, many years. And then she started her own thing where she has like a marketing company / they do productions, and she had a radio show.
Yeah,
and I was
remember.
enter for her radio show, and she was very innovative. Her show was technically what we see nowadays, where it's streamed on every media platform.
Very podcast style.
Yes,
almost,
exactly.
She was ahead of her time.
Exactly. And I worked with her, and I graduated in December of 2018. And I didn't have a job lined up when I graduated other than the internship that I was doing with her. And she actually offered me to, work for her during that time. But ya tenía la espinita that I wanted to be in front of the camera, So I don't remember how many positions I applied to, Kenya. Like, many. Like, at this moment, I cannot tell you how many, because it was many. Like, any opening that I would see in Spanish for any station,
You were applying for
I
it.
was up. Yeah. And it wasn't until summer of 20. No, I graduated in December 2017. It wasn't until the summer of 2018 and
Like 6
late
months
July
later. Yeah.
that I actually got the call from Yuma telling me, like, hey, we have a position open. We've seen your reel. We've seen your resume. Would you be able to come in for an interview? So it took
Had you ever been to Yuma?
I actually had been to Yuma once before in my life, and that was for a project that we did for Concite Noticias. Imagine 3 young girls. We were in our late teens, early 20s.
Babies, practically.
By ourselves with the camera, a lot of, fire inside of us to tell a story and to prove ourselves. Going over there, and when I say in the middle of the night, like I'm saying 2, 3 a.m. in the morning at a border town.
Yeah.
With a camera.
There's like a lot of things like that are scary that you have to do as part of your job, that you put yourself, like, you're taking a risk, because I've heard from like other friends who have gone into the industry too, of like, oh, everything that they have to go through and encounter, and the homes they have to visit, or the streets the people they have to talk to. And it's like, you are putting yourself at risk. And hats off to you guys, because I would be scared. It's like, yo soy bien miedosa, and I'm like always thinking of, like, I don't know, I guess I'm paranoid or something, but let's talk about a little bit the pressure, because you mentioned like you graduated and you didn't have a set job when you graduated. And I feel like society sometimes puts pressure. I know I felt it when I graduated, of like, oh, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's this? What's that? Right? Did you at any point feel pressure of like what your next step was going to be and not having anything set?
Yes, I think that's almost everybody nowadays, especially with social media, seeing all your other classmates, living the dream or what you wanted, they have it. And I mean, like, the position, like, oh, they were able to work right away. And you're over here trying to, still find a job. It's hard. And it has happened to me many times. Even, once I was a set journalist, it happened again when the pandemic hit. Yeah. I was still working in Yuma. It was 2020. And for me, not knowing what was going to happen with the industry, we saw how they just sent us home, and they said, you guys are going to start working from home. At that time, my contract was coming to an end, and I knew I didn't want to renew my contract, like I knew Yuma was just a stepping step for me to go to my next market, eventually make it back home, here in Phoenix with my family. So as the time of my contract to be over, the deadline was approaching, I just didn't know what's going to happen, because I would check, different positions, and I wouldn't see many positions, and I applied to a couple, and and I will check almost every day, and it said processing, and then it said, I forgot the term, but technically, like, oh, you were not chosen after. Okay. So it was heartbreaking a little bit, but thankfully I was able to I feel like I have a lot of luck, but at the same time, I have worked for it, okay? So, like, no me malinterpreten, because it has been luck, but at the same time, I had put in the work for it. But when I was in Yuma, I used to, everything I did, well, I will do it thinking of my reel. And for those of you who are not familiar with the industry, your reel is technically where you do this quick 3-minute video with all your work for the news directors to see, to be able to understand what you're capable of in front of the camera and hire you.
So see you in action. So you want to put your best clips, is what they always say. Your best stories, your best intros, everything.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you do a little bit of everything, features, live hits, breakings, everything. So everything I did in Yuma was thinking, you know, about my reel. You know, I tried to be my best every day. And I also understood that social media and social media presence was a big part of it. So a lot of those clips, I will share like a 30-second video of like what I did that day. Kind of like to tease, you know?
Like a day in the life. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I will do it in all the media platforms, including LinkedIn. Okay, long story short, it was a news director from Colorado, which was eventually the next station that I worked at, that reached out to me because one of the clips that I shared one time was, the story was very basic. It was how they had a problem in Yuma, in one of the towns in Somerton, regarding people throwing the toilet paper and the wipes in the toilet and that clogging the system, the system, and causing problems for the city to fix. And it was a lot of money for them to fix. So they were having some sort of campaign to get people not to do that. So I actually got my GoPro and I put it inside of a toilet.
You
did? And that was the shot, you know? And that caught the news director's attention when I did the little clip where you're able to see like myself flushing it, but from inside the toilet.
The creativity.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a clean toilet, by the way.
It was clean.
I made sure it was clean. Anyways, that caught her attention, and she actually reached out to me through LinkedIn, and she was like, "Hey, are you under a contract? This, you know, what's your number? Can I call you?" We spoke very briefly. I told her I was in a contract, so she's like, "We have to wait." And once 2020 comes, they had a position open, so I applied, and she remembered me.
Oh,
she remembered that
wow.
conversation we had like a year and a half before.
Yeah.
And I got hired. So remember what I said about luck? Yeah, I was lucky because she remembered me, but I also, like I said, I put in the work.
You worked for it. You really have.
Yeah, but prior to her calling me and that position being open, like, trust me, I was just questioning like what was gonna happen to me, because you know I had moved out of my parents' home already. I was technically an adult. We're in the middle of a pandemic. So for me, like coming back to my parents, not that it was not an option, but I just didn't want to count that as an option, because I'm like, okay, no, like I'm already on my own. I've been able to survive. I know I can make it. So I need to like ponerme las pilas y buscar qué hacer.
Buscar y no rendirte.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I think that's the thing about journalism, that you have to be open to change. You have to be open to moving states a lot. Like that's very, very common in that industry. What advice would you tell someone who's like thinking of going into the industry, or if this industry is even for them, let's say if they're going to school even and are questioning, what advice would you give them in order to be prepared, or someone be more prepared for that, taking that next step?
What I said at the beginning, make sure that this is really what you want. Es una carrera muy celosa. And that's what I've been told by a lot of my mentors and colleagues. And what I mean by this is many times you're going to miss special occasions with your family. I mean, news don't stop. They're 24/7. There's New Year's, birthdays, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Yeah.
That I haven't been with my family, and I'm out there working. And yes, I will lie if I say like, ay, no me puede. Obviamente me puede, because that's my family. I'm a family girl. But I also know that I'm doing it because it's something that I enjoy. It's something that I like. It's something that I picked. And if you don't have a passion, if you don't have that initiative, if you don't have that that you want to help the community, whatever the reason it is, make sure it's the right reason. Because that's what, during the hard times when your job is getting the best of you, is going to get you through that bad time, that bad day. Remembering why you're doing this.
Your why. Yeah, keeping your why centered so that in those tough days, you remember the reason, the purpose, the motive behind why you're doing everything. Where do you see the future of journalism going?
That one is scary with how technology is right now. Like, for example, that artificial intelligence.
AI?
Yes. Have you seen those reporters
I
and
haven't,
anchors?
but I've heard of it.
I've seen little clips here and there, and I'm like, wow, that's scary.
It looks real?
Yes, it's very real. But then I have to remind myself that something that they don't have is my personality. I'm able to interact with the community. And believe it or not, that has gotten me a lot of great stories. Being out in the field and just talking to our people,
Building those relationships. You're putting in the work to build those relationships, not AI,
Exactly. And I think that's the difference. But I do believe that, news as we know it right now, particularly like TV news, it's going to change. The next thing is social media.
Yes. Do you remember when we were at Cronkite and they would always say, do not do a package more than 1:30? And I don't know if it's still the thing, but they used to say a minute 30, and this was in 2017, 2016, 2017. A minute 30 is the attention span of the average person. Now with TikTok, it's like boom, boom, boom. If you don't catch them in the first 3-5 seconds, like they're scrolling, they're changing the channel, they're flipping to the next video. How has that impacted? Because before it was like that. How has that impacted like the news industry now? Like people's attention span just lessening every day, especially like I think TikTok was at fault for it.
I think we have a strategy, at least for me. I have to be very creative with the story because I'm like, if I wouldn't watch it, probably people at home will not watch it either.
Putting your GoPro in the toilet. That's a solution. Yeah.
Yeah, and being very like al punto, no? Like, no te alargues, tell people what they need to know, why they need to know it, and if it's a problem, tell them the problem, tell them the solution. Being more practical. Yes, keep that storytelling in it, que sea entretenido, but also, have a strategy, porque para decir una cosa, puedo decirla de mil formas, ¿no? Pero right. If the people connect, they click, they're like, hey, she's speaking like I speak. They see something that clicks with them, they're more than likely gonna stay tuned. And also, use social media como un recurso que te agregue y no que te quite, Like, I don't look at social media like the enemy, like, okay, social media is there, let's do a version for social media, or right. Something very small.
Which I've seen that a lot, like, pop up. I don't know if you've seen Adriana Loya's TikToks, but yes. She pops up from time to time. And that's another Cronkite alumna, that we went to school with. But she takes her stories and then transforms them for TikTok, and they're boom, 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 boom. Like maybe 15 seconds with the 3 basic facts that you need to know of the story. I think, like you said, maybe it is like an addition to, broadcasting that like reporters are now doing, of taking that into consideration so that you find your audience. Because if you think about it, like probably the demographic of people watching news at 5 p.m. is very different than the demographic and the audience you're going to capture on TikTok any time of the day.
That's a new audience.
Right. So you're like gaining and interacting, but also sharing knowledge to 2 different sets of age groups too. On TikTok, you're going to find like the younger crowd. And then on the 5 p.m. newscast, you're going to find like the mom and dad or the abuelita, who are tuning in because that's what they know. But I think, like you said, that I do agree with that. Like it complements each other at the end of the day.
And you're able to hear directly from your audience too, which is something that I love because they're able to ask me questions. And before, I don't know about you, when I used to, growing up, watch the news, I thought of the reporters and the anchor as sort of celebrities.
Yeah.
Local celebrities. And now I feel with social media, yeah, they might be looking up to me. I'm not sure, but I feel like it brings us closer, you know? Like you have that more intimate relationship with them because they're able to comment and you reply back to them or direct message you and you reply to them. It's like, okay, esta persona es normal, es igual que yo.
Right. Or even like you find sources of like so many people have been like, oh, ¿quién está pasando por esto? I'm doing a story. Like, I'd love to talk to you. I think it's also like open the doors of having easier access to like help with your stories and also probably find out things that you didn't even know were happening because someone reached out and pitched an idea to you, right?
Yeah. Or, you know, those pop-ups that you say on your For You page that sometimes you see a publication, you're like, what is this about? Let me check it out.
What is this event about? I know. And antes, I remember in 2017, like everything was very much, TikTok wasn't a thing. Instagram was starting to get more popular. The biggest thing was like Facebook, which Facebook has like a very different algorithm if you really think about it. And especially how it was back then. Like it really has came to like change the game. And I think it really has like impacted hopefully your career and a lot of other careers in a positive way, you know?
For me, it has been a resource that I use every day. I'm thankful for it. I get story ideas. I'm able to connect with people. And it's also fun, you know? Like, for me, the thing that I do mostly in my TikTok, for example, is I like to show people the behind the scenes. Because I want people to realize that I do everything myself most of the time. And maybe, yes, the story's not perfect, but I'm doing the job of 5 people too. And I don't want that to be like como una excusa tampoco, pero sí que vean todo el trabajo que ponemos detrás, you know? And I'm doing this for them, not for me. Yes, it's my job. I won't deny that. I get paid for it, but my reason, my why is because this is my community. This is where I grew up. And every time I do a story, I think about my abuelita, my parents, my tío, my tía, my cousin, you know, because I relate to those stories.
Yeah. No, and I think that is the essence of what every reporter should do and be is serving their community. That is the reason why, you know, that is the purpose. So thank you for everything. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm on social media as news_Jackie. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. Or you can tune in at 10 every day on Telemundo Arizona and you'll see me too.
Thank you for everything that you're doing. Es un orgullo verte triunfar en your carrera as a person. Like, thank you so much for your time and for opening it up. And thank you so much for everything that you're doing for our community. It's truly making a difference. So, and thank you for being here on the podcast as well, because I know this has been a long time coming of texting back and forth. So I appreciate you making time for this. But I appreciate you so much. Y que sigan all the blessings and all the triunfos coming into your life.
No, thank you for this platform. I think we need it in the Hispanic community. It's a pleasure being here and sharing a little bit. And hopefully there's a little girl in high school and middle school who might be thinking of, you know, pursuing that dream of journalism. And maybe I was able to, you know, spark that in their heart like I was back 10 years ago.
Yeah. Let's not talk about how back ago, you know, but yes, a little bit ago. You know?
Yeah, no, gracias, Kenya. Un placer.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for tuning in to another episode. I will see you guys back here next week on Wednesday. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at Latinas Power Talk. Bye.